This movie is a perfect example of how trailers can ruin a movie. I mean, even if I hadn't seen the trailers for Bullet Train, a ton of times, by the way, they not only have these trailers, but they plastered them everywhere. I still don't think this is a great movie, but I think I would have enjoyed it more if I had gone in totally blind, which is pretty much impossible to do these days. I'm sure somewhere out there, there's someone who doesn't watch a lot of media and isn't on social media very much and doesn't watch TV or go to other movies and decides to wander into Bullet Train. And that blessed soul is going to have a better time than the rest of us. But for the most part, these trailers, whoever cut these trailers really messed this movie up. Because not only are all of the best jokes in Bullet Train in the trailers and most of Brad Pitt's scenes, but things that should have been a surprise are easy to guess if you've seen the trailers and know which characters have yet to show up. That was inexcusable. I can't believe somebody wasn't like, why would you put that in the trailer? All right, there are 2 surprise cameos, which are fun and were a genuine surprise. I hope they stay that way. Be careful on social media. But you know what? They're both so short. If someone ruins it for you, I don't really know if that's going to make a huge difference. I mean, it's not enough of a bonus to really tweak the movie. But it was still, it did put a smile on my face both times. If you really feel like going to the movies, then by all means, you can go and see this. But if you could take it or leave it. If you're like, I have other stuff that I'd like to do, then you should wait for digital. And even there, I think you still might be bored. But I think that this would play much better as a digital film. And it's very small in scope. I don't think you need a big screen for this movie, to be honest with you. That's because now this is another one of those movies that's told out of order. This is a very tired storytelling strategy, and you have to be really talented to pull it off. And a lot of people who are not good enough are trying to do it. And it sucks to have to sit through it. There are, again, tons of cutaways and flashbacks, and they keep just bringing the story's momentum to a halt. And you jump from character group to character group, and you're like, but I don't feel I got to know that character. And they're like, too bad, we've moved on to the next one. Isn't this clever? And you're like, no, it's not particularly clever. And now it's not even interesting, or I'm not even involved. Family Guy does cutaways extremely well, but even with Brad Pitt's tremendous efforts, this movie just isn't funny enough. They really should have had a comedy writer come in here and punch up this script. It really needs it. It really needs it. The movie isn't funny. The movie isn't as funny as it thinks it is. Let's say it that way. Also, Joey King's character might be one of the most unlikable characters I've ever seen. A total ass. And at a time when women are being targeted by society, this really does not help women. And I don't want to give too much away, and we'll talk about it a little bit later in this review. But, Joey King's character is supposed to be such a girl power character. I think she's actually just so damaging to women that it was just like, I was like, I can't believe that nobody said. There are a lot of times where I was watching this movie and I was like, how did they allow this to happen? And I'm not even talking about just like commentary about women in society. I'm talking about it happened numerous times. I was like, that was a mistake. Like I said that to myself numerous times watching this movie. I was like, wow, you shouldn't have done that. That just, was another point off this movie. Oh, there's another point off. And we're just losing points left and right. All right, so was anything good? I said you could watch it. All right, so yes, there are some good things. Brad Pitt is a movie star for a reason, and while he doesn't do it often, he's very good at being silly, and it's fun to see him do that here. Even though we've seen 80% of his role in the movie from the trailers, he's actually not in a ton of the film. I mean, I'd say he's definitely a lead character, but he's not like, I'd say, there are large periods of time during the movie where you don't see Brad Pitt. And I think that's a bit of a mistake, especially because it was sold as a Brad Pitt movie. And also because I already saw all of his good scenes. I wish there were more Brad Pitt scenes that I had not seen. But it's fun to just be with silly Brad Pitt, so that was nice. But I have to say, Aaron Taylor-Johnson and Brian Tyree Henry stole the movie from him. Also, I think partially because a lot of their scenes we had not seen before. But I don't know if I'm totally sold on Aaron Taylor-Johnson, even after this movie is the new Craven. And by the way, it was the dailies for this movie that inspired the head of Sony to give Aaron Taylor-Johnson the Craven gig. And I don't see it. I'm like, yeah, he's good here, but I don't think I'd give him Craven. I mean, they decided to make a Craven movie, so I guess, their line of thinking isn't so great anyway. But in this film, Taylor Johnson and Henry did a fantastic job. Sure, they're a ripoff of a Tarantino or Guy Ritchie duo, like total ripoff. But it still works. Even a watered down version of that's pretty darn good, especially with these actors. They were good. I mean, I can see why they would get more work off of this, but again, I don't know if it should be Craven. Their story was the most compelling, the most surprising, and the most emotional. I think Taylor Johnson is better in small, he really kind of was really compelling in Tenet, right? Remember that? He was a nice surprise there too, but I still don't know if I'm sold on him as a lead actor. But he did a nice job here. And so did Brian Tyree Henry. He was great. I also enjoyed the twists and turns of the story. While the movie was a bit boring and slow at the start, after the first act, it started to get interesting as it was able to start topping itself. I was like, oh, okay, that was pretty good. And even though the movie overall was not very good, you still want to know as you watch it, how they're going to get out of this, why this is all happening. And then you get the answers, which I think were a bit of a mixed bag. And the movie didn't end on a very strong note at all. I thought the ending was weak. I always tell you it's important how the audience leaves the theater. And when you left the theater, you were kind of like, oh man, what a waste of my time. But still, the story is engaging, interesting, and surprising enough. It just makes it that it's watchable. I was like, there were some pretty good, interesting surprises in there. I think someone, wouldn't be totally bored. All right, so what did I not like? First off, the production design on this movie actually comes off as cheap and repetitive. I got real tired of being on that train real fast. Especially since, again, every single location was given away in the trailers. There wasn't a single surprise location in the entire movie. You were like, ooh, this is cool. You were like, yeah, I remember this from the trailers. I also didn't feel at all like I was in Japan except for the film's opening scene, nor like I was on an actual train. It felt like sets and a soundstage the entire time. And sometimes the green screen was super obvious. I mean, there were some scenes where, of course, it had to be done with green screen. And also, I'm pretty sure you can't leap onto a bullet train and punch your way through the glass. I'm pretty sure. But I mean, I guess you just have to take this movie with a grain of salt if you're going to go along with this. I was also frustrated about how little some actors are used, even though they were used to sell the movie. I don't want to give too much away because, again, I'm trying to maintain whatever surprises are left. But I know a lot of you are excited about Bad Bunny, but he had almost no dialogue, and his single extended scene played more like a music video than a movie. And I know Bad Bunny has a lot of fans, so all I can say is that this movie failed to capture the magic that has gotten him this far in his career. I was particularly upset about Karen Fukuhara, who I've become a very big fan of thanks to her work on The Boys. She's coming off of a great season 3 where she showed that she had tremendous range as an actress. Yet here, for her to basically have just 2 brief scenes and barely any dialogue is absolutely ridiculous. She's really just an attendant on the train who has nothing to contribute to the story. And you're like, that's what you did with Karen Fukuhara? She's a talented actress, she's funny, she's charming, she's good at fight scenes, and you didn't use her? I mean, I was pretty upset about it. And while I know that not every story has to have a lot of female characters, this one has some, and the way that they're used is, I think, pretty appalling and very, very frustrating. Now, I know some of you might be like, we get it, Grace. You don't get it, because it keeps happening in all these movies. And I don't and I'm sure those of you who understand, who are in my group or are sympathetic, or have a soul, understand what I'm talking about. Women here are shown to be either inconsequential or difficult bitches who get in the way of guys who are generally cool with each other if it wasn't for these bitches. I mean, women as a constant wet blanket is a tired, really annoying trope. And it was very frustrating. I think Joey King's character is actually meant to be empowering, but that failed spectacularly. I was like, this sets women back in movies and action movies quite a bit. I would have totally rewritten that character. And there must have been no women making this movie because they would have been like, that character's got to change. I mean, there aren't any women in the main creative people behind the scenes, but there should have, apparently no woman ever saw the script or would have been like, this is a disaster. I don't know. I don't know why Joey King wasn't like, is there any way? I guess she was just happy to get the gig because, it's the most high profile role that she's had to date. But wow, I'd be like, I don't think you want to be the face of this character. Also, for a movie from 87 North, the production company that specializes in stunt work and is, consists of a bunch of people who came up through the stunt industry, and a movie is directed by David Leitch, one of the co-founders of 87 North himself, Brad Pitt's former stuntman. The fight scenes here are pretty bland and uninspired. I was like, you come to an 87 North movie for the fight scenes, and they did not deliver here. The recent Nobody, also from 87 North, has way better fight scenes, and I have to add, way better directing. Leitch seems to be really phoning it in here. And when you're in a confined space like this, it's up to the director and the DP to turn it up a notch with interesting camera angles and camera moves, and they didn't do any of that here. I mean, it was like, this is a movie that's definitely John Wick very light, like very light. I was really excited about this movie, and I'm pretty disappointed that it's so lame. But I have some friends who, even though I told them I didn't care for it, they were like, we were looking forward to going, we still might want to go, and I was like, I'll go with you, Because, it's interesting enough. But what a missed opportunity. With this cast, this setup, and 87 North involved, this movie should have been so much better. So much better. So that's my review of Bullet Train, which arrives in theaters this Friday. I'm curious to hear your thoughts, and I know that there are some advanced screenings for fans today, so don't spoil it because there's nothing to enjoy about this. There's so few surprises left. Don't ruin it for people who haven't seen it yet. All right, so share your thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.